Dear friends, today we are going to discuss Shakespeare's sonnets, especially sonnet number 121. William Shakespeare, a foreword. As the classical or Italian sonnet known in the name of Franz Petrarch as Petrarchan sonnet, English sonnets are named as Shakespearean sonnet because he had put an own stamp on the sonnet. And as Giacomo da Lentini was the inventor of Italian sonnet, it was Henry Howard, or Earl of Surrey, who is the inventor of English sonnet. Actually, the classical sonnet or Italian sonnet was invented by Giacomo da Lentini, but it is known in the name of Francisco Petrarch or Franz Petrarch, so we say Petrarchan sonnet. Just like this, our English sonnet also invented by or developed by Henry Howard or Earl of Surrey. Earl of Surrey is the titular name of Henry Howard, who is the inventor of English sonnet. But English sonnet is known in the name of William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare penned 39 plays, 2 long narrative poems. First one is Venus and Adonis, and the second one is The Rape of Lucrece. Venus and Adonis is written in 6-lined stanza form, and The Rape of Lucrece in rhyme royal, and 154 sonnets. So Shakespeare wrote 39 plays, 2 long narrative poems, and 154 sonnets. Some resources say that Shakespeare had written 37 plays, and some more sources indicate that Shakespeare wrote 39 plays. Whatever it is, he wrote 39 plays, 2 long narrative poems, and 154 sonnets. Which are the 2 long narrative poems? First one is Venus and Adonis, and the second one is The Rape of Lucrece. Shakespeare's 154 sonnets are classified as 2. The first group and the second group. The first group, which is the first 126 sonnets dedicated to Mr. W.H. And this first group is also called the Sonnets of Affection or the Fair Youth Sonnets. And the second group is the last 28 sonnets, as from 127 to 154. This is dedicated to Dark Lady as Black Beauty or Mistress. And this second group is called the Sonnets of Sensual Love. So Shakespearean sonnets are categorized as 2 groups, first group and second group. The first group contains the first 126 sonnets, and the second group contains the last 28 sonnets. The first group is dedicated to or the dedicatee of the first group is Mr. W.H. At the same time, the dedicatee of the second group is Dark Lady. She is picturized as Black Beauty and Mistress. The first group has two names, the Sonnets of Affection, and the another one is Fair Youth Sonnets. And the second group of sonnets is known as the Sonnets of Sensual Love. The Sonnets of Sensual Love. Just like this, his plays were also published as quartos by his company. The Shakespearean Drama Company published Shakespeare's dramas as quartos. Here also we can see two quartos. First one is good quarto and the second one is bad quarto. Good quarto is the regular edition and the bad quarto is the pirated edition. The sonnet has two groups, first group and second group, just like his drama also has two categories. It's a category. First quarto is the good quarto and the second quarto is the bad quarto. Good quarto is the regular edition of his plays and the bad quarto is the pirated edition. Mr. W.H. may be William Herbert. His titular name is Earl of Pembroke, and the second one is Henry Wriothesley. Titular name is Earl of Southampton. There are many disputes on these two names, telling the identity of Mr. W.H. The most speculated one is Henry Wriothesley or Earl of Southampton. And Dark Lady may be Mary Fitton or her sister Annie Fitton. The most speculated one is Mary Fitton. She was a maid or a lady in waiting in the court of Queen Elizabeth. But she was very connected to the royal company of drama. So we can say that it may be, probably it is who is Mary Fitton. So Mr. W.H. is the Henry Wriothesley or the Earl of Southampton. W.H. is Henry Wriothesley and the Dark Lady is Mary Fitton. Whatever it is, Shakespeare had written all the 154 sonnets in a timeline between 1595 and 1599. Between 1597 and 1599. The next topic is Chronology on Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was born on 26th April 1564. 26th April 1564, 1564. At Stratford Avon. He studied at grammar school. It was his education. In 1584, he left his native town. Until 1592, he was disappeared from the focus of history or from the focus of literary history. Once he himself told of this time that he was wandering along the country. At that time he had done varied jobs. It was of holding horse at the stage door, and was one among the army of Earl of Leicester. In 1592, he was reappeared as a rising actor. In 1592, Robert Greene set a jibe at Shakespeare in his carping book. Carping book means a book only seeing mistakes. And which is his carping book? The name of the book is Groats Worth of Wit. Groats Worth of Wit. In 1595, Shakespeare's name was recorded on the payroll of the Lord Chamberlain. In 1595, Shakespeare's name was recorded on the payroll of the Lord Chamberlain. It was an actors' company. Payroll means a salary record. In 1597, Shakespeare bought a new place or a great house. He bought a new house. His name was New Place or Great House. In 1598, Francis Mears, an Elizabethan schoolmaster. Francis Mears is an Elizabethan schoolmaster who wrote a book, Palladius Tamir. Francis Mears' book is Palladius Tamir, and another book is Wit's Treasury. So Francis Mears had written two books, Palladius Tamir and Wit's Treasury. Shakespeare's works firstly mentioned in these books. In which book? Palladius Tamir. In 1599, William Jaggard published an anthology of 20 poems named as The Passionate Pilgrims, with the name of William Shakespeare on the title page. So it was William Jaggard who published an anthology of 20 poems. The name of the anthology was The Passionate Pilgrims. The title of this book was with the name of William Shakespeare. It was in 1599. In 1601, he wrote allegorical poem The Phoenix and Turtle. The Phoenix and Turtle. In 1602, he received the titular name Coat of Arms. In 1601, Shakespeare wrote The Phoenix and Turtle. It was an allegorical poem. And in 1602, he received a title or a name, Coat of Arms. In 1609, Tom Thorpe published a book as the collection of Shakespeare's 154 sonnets as a quarto. So in 1909, Tom Thorpe published the first quarto of William Shakespeare's 154 sonnets. And along with this, 6 additional sonnets also he involved. Tom Stopp involved 6 additional sonnets also, along with the 154 sonnets. These 6 additional sonnets were written by William Shakespeare in some place. Which are the plays? The first one is Romeo and Juliet. Second one is Henry V. And the third one is Love's Labour's Lost. And the last one is Edward III. From these plays, he collected the 6 more sonnets. So he published these 6 sonnets also along with the 154 sonnets as in the first quarto. The title of this quarto was Shakespeare's Sonnet. Tom Stopp's first quarto's title was Shakespeare's Sonnet, and the dedicatee was Mr. W.H. as the begetter for the birth of Shakespeare's sonnet. Begetter means the reason. So, Tom Stopp, this edition was the first quarto. Actually, Shakespeare ordered sonnets as sequence, and so Tom Stopp gave the number system. Shakespeare used it as sequence, so Tom Stopp used the number system. And many speculations and arguments have exhausted on the identity of Mr. W.H. The speculator names were William Herbert, or Earl of Pembroke, and Henry Wriothesley, Earl of Southampton. And among them, the most speculated one was Henry Wriothesley, or the Earl of Southampton. What's the reason? The lifespan of William Shakespeare was between 1564 to 1616, and the lifespan of William Herbert 1580 to 1630, and the lifespan of Henry Wriothesley was 1573 to 1624. So, in the time of William Shakespeare, Earl of Pembroke or William Herbert had only of 15 years old, but Earl of Southampton or Henry Wriothesley was of 23. So we can see that it was Earl of Southampton or Henry Wriothesley is the Mr. W.H. Oscar Wilde wrote a book, The Portrait of Mr. W.H. Who is the author of The Portrait of Mr. W.H.? Who is Oscar Wilde? In 1597, he bought a house for his retirement life. In 1610 or 1611, he wrote his last play. Which is the play? The Tempest. The Tempest is the last play of William Shakespeare. In 1610 or 1611, Shakespeare retired from the milieu of art. In 1613, he left London for Stratford, and in the same year, in 1613, the Globe Theatre was burned, and in the next year it was reopened or rebuilt. It was in 1614. In 1616, Ben Jonson stated in his work Shakespeare and Classical Antiquity. Ben Jonson stated William Shakespeare in his book Shakespeare and Classical Antiquity. In 1616, April 23rd, Shakespeare was died. He was born in 1564, April 26th, and died in April 23rd, 1616. In 1623, John Hemingway and Henry Condell, both these persons, published his 36th plays. In 1640, the second quarto was published by John Benson, who called Shakespeare's sonnets as serene. John Benson called Shakespeare's sonnets as serene. It was notoriously controversial quarto, and John Benson's quarto was very controversial because it was entirely different from Tom Thorpe's quarto. He excluded 7 sonnets: A Love's Complaint, The Phoenix and Turtle, sonnet number 128, sonnet number 144, etc. He avoided all this. What were the reasons for controversies? The first one is he had given new descriptive title instead of sequential order or number. Tom Thorpe gave the number system, Shakespeare gave sequential order, but John Benson gave new descriptive style of title. Avoiding Thorpe's number system, he gave new descriptive titles. The second reason is he merged the 14-lined sonnets into one longer poems. He added 2 sonnets into one. And the next reason was in the sonnet 1 to 126, or we can call this as the sonnets of fair youth or the sonnets of affection. He changed the male pronouns to that of female. In the first group of sonnet number 1 to 126, dedicated to Mr. W.H., and this group we call as the fair youth sonnets or the sonnets of affection. And in these sonnets he changed the male pronoun to female pronouns. And the next reason was in sonnet 101 he changed he, him to she, her. This is the example. In sonnet number 108, we replace the sweet boy to sweet love. He changed the term sweet boy as sweet love. In which sonnet? The sonnet number 108. The sonnet number 107 and 108 combined under the title A Monument to Fame. Here, the 14-lined sonnets combined to a longer poem. And above all, he included Leonard Digges' poem praising Shakespeare in this second quarto. So, totally we can say it was very corrupted edition. In 1765, Samuel Johnson wrote Preface to Shakespeare. In 1765, Dr. Samuel Johnson wrote Preface to Shakespeare. And another one is Defense of Shakespeare. Defense of Shakespeare and Preface to Shakespeare. Both these are by Dr. Samuel Johnson. Johnson praised Shakespeare for perfecting the English blank verse. Some other fact is on William Shakespeare. In 3 quatrains, he put forth the idea of proposition and rounds off the sonnets with an epigram. Epigram is justifying words or justifying speech. So in 3 quatrains, he developed the idea of proposition and complete the sonnet with an epigram. So, it is closely related to the real life situation with the various feelings of speaker stating the opinion that sonnets are the direct expression of poets' own feelings like love, joy, jealousy, hope, hatred, despair, frailty, argument, sad, intelligence. Most of Shakespeare's sonnets are probably written during the period between 1595 and 1596, and this duration is between 1595 and 1596. And here is a confusion. And for this picturization, Shakespeare used some characters. Handsome youth as poet's bosom friend and a rival poet. The critics say it is Christopher Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe is the rival poet, and a young female beauty as the tyrannical mistress, a tyrannical beauty. The first 17 sonnets are in the first 17 sonnets we can see narcissism. What is narcissism? This is the self-love of a handsome youth. Shakespeare has won the name Bard of Avon. Bard of Avon is known on William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare is known as Bard of Avon. Shakespeare had the major share in two leading theatres. First one is Globe and the second one is Blackfriars. The lyrical quality is high. So what is lyric? So what is lyric? Lyric is a poetic style with the thought of a single speaker. Shakespeare wrote all his sonnets in iambic pentameter, but only one got the difference. This is sonnet number 145, in which he used the iambic tetrameter. In all his sonnets, he used the iambic pentameter system, and in the only one, sonnet number 145, he used the style of iambic tetrameter. We can see a transition of thought within a sonnet. It is an unexpected turn or turn of thoughts. This is we call volte or turn of thoughts, or simply turn. In Shakespeare's sonnet, it can be in the couplet, the last two lines. Edmund Malone, an Irish-born English scholar, wrote the first critical edition of Shakespeare's complete works, titled as Plays and Poems, which was published in 1795. So 1790. The other Elizabethans are Edmund Spenser, John Donne, Sir Thomas Wyatt, Henry Howard, Sir Philip Sidney, George Gascoigne. Michael Drayton, Samuel Daniel, Thomas Campion, Phineas Fletcher, Giles Fletcher. These are the prime sonneteers in this period. The next prime topic is prime quotes on Shakespeare. The first one is William Wordsworth said, "The sonnets were a key with which Shakespeare unlocked his heart." The sonnets were a key with which Shakespeare unlocked his heart. Who told this? William Wordsworth. The second one is Ralph Waldo Emerson. Ralph Waldo Emerson. He breathed upon dead bodies and brought them into life. Nor sequent centuries could hit or beat, and some of Shakespeare's wit. This is told by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Robert Browning. Did Shakespeare? If so, the less Shakespeare he. Who told this? Robert Browning. What he said? Did Shakespeare? If so, the less Shakespeare he. The next is Cole Porter. What Cole Porter said? Brush up your Shakespeare. Cole Porter told, brush up your Shakespeare. The next is S.T. Coleridge. What he said, S.T. Coleridge, our myriad-minded Shakespeare. Our myriad-minded Shakespeare. This is told by S.T. Coleridge. Next is Ben Jonson. He told, sweet swan of Avon, sweet swan of Avon. The next is, he was not of an age, but for all time. The next one is, thou hast small Latin and less Greek. Ben Jonson told many. First one is, sweet son of Avon. Second one is, he was not of an age, but for all time. The third one is, thou hadst small Latin and less Greek. This is important. Thou hadst small Latin and less Greek. Next one is George Bernard Shaw. What Shaw said, Hamlet's experience simply could not have happened to a plumber. Hamlet's experience simply could not have happened to a plumber. This is told by George Bernard Shaw. John Dryden. Next person is John Dryden. He was the man who of all modern and perhaps ancient poets had the largest and most comprehensive soul. Next one is John Milton. Our sweetest Shakespeare fancies child. Our sweetest Shakespeare fancies child. Horace Walpole. Next one is Horace Walpole. One of the greatest geniuses that ever existed, Shakespeare undoubtedly won taste. One of the greatest geniuses that ever existed, Shakespeare undoubtedly wanted taste. This is told by Horace Walpole. W.H. Auden. Next person is Auden. More nonsense has been written about Shakespeare's sonnets than any other literary work in the world. More nonsense has been written about Shakespeare's sonnets than any other literary works in the world. This is told by W.H. Auden. Next one is Albert C. Bow. Next person is Albert C. Bow. A professor at the University of Pennsylvania. He is this person. Albert C. Bow said, of all the Elizabethan sonnet sequence, Shakespeare's is the least typical. It celebrates not the idealized love of an idealized mistress, but affection of an older man for a jilted and wayward youth. This is told in his book, Literary History of England. The book, Literary History of England, is written by Albert C. Bow. Albert C. Bow wrote Literary History of England. Literary History of England. This is written by Albert C. Bow. Dr. Samuel Johnson once said in his preface to Shakespeare, what he said, Shakespeare's characters are universal, but they stand for distinguishable individual qualities. This is told by Dr. Samuel Johnson in preface to Shakespeare. Shakespeare's characters are not exaggerated. This is also told by Dr. Samuel Johnson. And the next quote by Samuel Johnson is, Shakespeare has no improbable heroes, but only human beings. Shakespeare has no improbable heroes, but only human beings. This is told by Dr. Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson also wrote in the book Defense of Shakespeare, and this is another one. He says, Shakespeare sacrifices virtue to convenience he doesn't teach. He was not of an age, but for all time. This is told by Samuel Johnson. Lord Byron remarked, the tissue of poetry can't be all brilliance, any more than midnight skies can be entirely stars. But several of the sonnets are thick clusters of starlight. The tissue of poetry can't be all brilliance, any more than midnight sky can be entirely stars. But several of the sonnets are thick clusters of starlight. This is told by the romantic poet Lord Byron.